There we go. Hey, Steven. I think I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Steven? No.
Hello. Everybody hear me?
Hey, Steven.
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Okay. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm psyched. It's great. There's John. What's up, John?
Hold on a second. It's not using my microphone because JJ's using this computer for...
Chris, you're using JJ's computer.
I'm using JJ's computer. Yeah, that's exactly accurate. That's 100% the win. Chris, what camera are you using? You look great.
Do I actually stole the I stole one of these webcam things from the office.
So I realize now, well, it's the same one that I have. I realize now that you're looking at my chest because, again, I'm using JJ's computer. So here, let me
There you go. Nice.
reposition myself a little bit here.
Yeah, my camera on my computer is really terrible.
It is really terrible.
I don't know why, but this one seems better. So give it a go.
This thing is not coming down at all. Hold on. Almost up. There we go. All right. Oh, man.
Can I have the link?
It's better-ish.
Link.
John, you gonna have some visitors in the background for us, or what?
Every episode since this thing started, there have been visitors in the background. There's no guarantee.
I thought the prerequisite was a quiet place, and it's like, I don't know this right now in my house that is able to provide that.
That's true.
Matt's joining us from his car.
Yeah, I might be ineligible for the call.
we should all go to our cars. Actually, Nick's going to be joining us from his car, which is going to be interesting.
I'm here. Can you hear me, actually?
What's up, Nick?
Yeah. Oh.
Hey, how you doing?
You know, I did right before this. I went through my Wi-Fi system and I blocked all of the other devices in the house. So this is the only one with internet. So we'll see if that.
Look at you with that power.
Yeah.
I was talking to Nick earlier, and I'm like, yeah, I hope Chris's Wi-Fi is all right. It's been a little bit spotty, but lately, so
It's been horrible, but hopefully this will be better.
I'm sure.
Would it help to do video off, or is that?
No. It'll just help that we don't have 5 people streaming video and listening to music and all those other great things.
So it's funny. I called Cox a couple of weeks ago because they decreased my internet speed without really telling me.
Why?
Because a couple of months ago they gave a bunch of people an extra 30 megabytes per second, So I had 180, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome. That's cool of them to do." And now with everybody working from home, I think they were like, we're going to need that bandwidth back. So I called them up. I'm like, what'd you guys do? Like, you decreased my speed. They're like, well, no, we
For the
didn't.
greater good.
We just that offer was only a temporary offer. I'm like, okay, yeah, I didn't read the fine print. I just said, oh, cool, you're giving me more speed, and just kind of went on my merry way. But then she's like, well, how many devices do you have? And I'm like, I don't know, like 15, like 2 thermostats. I got this plug and that plug and 2, 3, 4, 5 computers. Like, she's like, oh, well, that's way too many. Your internet speed only supports 5 devices. I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay, cool. Yep. All right. She's like, we can upgrade you. She's like, just give me 1 second. I'll find out how much. Oh, we can upgrade you for like another $25 a month, but that's still only going to get you 9 devices. I'm like, okay, enough. This conversation.
Yeah.
I know that the internet is fine at the lower speed. I was just curious as why you guys jip me. Anyway.
I don't know. I never knew a thermostat could use so much bandwidth.
Ecobee is the number one thing that pings home in my house. Other than cameras trying to get out, I blocked them on my DNS server so that they just can't get out of the house.
I have an Eero, so like I have like really finite control over everything that's on my network. So I'm like, guys, like I know that the thermostat isn't causing any issues. It's not a big deal.
Godspeed, John.
Any questions? You guys get a chance to look over the notes for the show? I don't think we have any hard questions there for anybody.
Just give Chris all the hard questions.
Okay,
that's my only request.
Matt, just to make sure that I'm correct in introducing you, you're the CEO and co-founder of Lullabot and the CEO of sister company Tugboat QA.
Yeah, I am until they kick me out.
It's fair.
I actually printed the show notes for the first time in 245 episodes.
But you're not going to have all the updates I just made.
Nope.
Nick, that's a small
Nick, you're
house.
not driving. Are you just in your driveway?
It'll rain tomorrow, but anyway.
Yeah.
Hey Nick, I mean,
Hey, Nick,
I have to.
you should take your seatbelt
JJ's
off.
face every week. So
I didn't even think of that.
It's the safest podcast on the air. Airbags and a seatbelt.
all right, John, whenever you're ready.
Oh boy. I don't know.
John,
Stephen, your voice is your microphone isn't very. Is it for anybody else? Isn't
is
as
it
strong?
low?
Yeah, it's a little low.
Oh, thank you for telling me. These guys don't say anything, and then I have headaches later in post production.
That's when you just overdub everything. You just say the same thing over again, and you get reverberation on the podcast.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it just takes me 2 weeks to do it. Thank you.
Is my audio okay?
Yeah, you guys sound great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody sounds good. Actually, now that you say it, Stephen does sound soft compared to everybody
Thank you for
else.
saying that. See if I can fix that easily here. Is that any better?
Yeah, sounds better to me.
Is it better, Matt?
Yeah.
You sure?
I mean, you could go a little more.
Okay.
Try 11.
Turn it up to 11. So, episode title. Well, we're going to put this up to a vote.
Is that going up at all? I can't tell.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Okay, there we
right
go.
on.
The triple threat or
Triple threat.
the triple threat or doubling down.
Is that in reference to the Drupal Association
Yep.
donation match?
Yeah.
What are you adjusting, John? The title?
Yeah.
We have it currently as triple your impact.
Oh, because here it
Which is
says
the name of the campaign.
Oh, okay. Because here it says this episode, this is episode 245, the triple threat.
Let's do the triple your impact. Let's not threaten anybody with the title.
Yeah, I didn't change it either.
Somebody.
Yeah, maybe triple your impact.
Yeah, it's triple your impact.
John and his shenanigans.
It was not me. Steven wrote these late last night, so I'm thinking it might have been some
very possible
late night humor.
Triple Threat Midnight, if anyone knows that reference.
I'm too young for most references.
All right.
Let's
roll.
This is Talk Drupal, a weekly chat about web design and development from a group of guys with one thing in common. We love Drupal. This is episode 245, Triple Your Impact. Welcome to Talking Drupal. Our thoughts are with the Drupal community as the world continues to battle COVID-19. On today's show, we talk with Matt Westgate and Chris Murray, CEOs of 2 of the 29 companies that have stepped up to support the Drupal Association's matching campaign. Before we do that, let's check in with our hosts. Steven, what's going on with you?
Hey guys, glad to be back again this week. Still quarantined, still healthy, so I really have nothing to complain about. And my big tech adventure this week was upgrading my internet, and we were chatting about that just before the show started. I think John, at least you and I were on Cox. I don't know if everyone else is, what their internet service provider is, but it turns out I got a flyer in the mail. I didn't even know this company existed. I live in Bristol, Rhode Island, and there's a company called Full Channel that is now i3 Broadband, and they were offering gigabit service download internet for $30 less a month than I was paying at Cox. So like 24 hours later, they were installing it. And I already had good speed. It was really the $30 cheaper that drew me into it. But the speeds I'm getting, I don't think I'll ever need. But with 3 people or 4 people right now Zooming, all day long, we're certainly not seeing any issues. So I know that this has been a hot topic. We talked about it earlier in the show here, and I'm starting to get phone calls from friends and family asking, hey, we're having trouble at home with our internet. What can we do to fix it? So
to say I'm envious is an understatement. I immediately went to their website to see if they were coming to Tiverton or any of the surrounding areas, because for those listeners that may not have this problem, in this part of Rhode Island, you literally have one choice for high-speed internet, which is Cox Communications. And it's all right. I mean, the internet works, but the price could be better.
Yes, I'm super psyched about that. And that's kind of it for me. And I also lost with my wife teaching from 8 to 4 every day online. She was hunched over her MacBook Pro for hours on end. So I gave up one of my 27-inch monitors to her this week. So she's now like sitting upright for those ungodly hours in front of the computer. So that's made her a little bit more comfortable this week. So I have to suffer with only 2 monitors now. So I hope I can make it through.
Man, let me get out my really small violin for you. I actually don't use an external monitor when I'm home. I just use my laptop screen. Ooh. So
that's rough. I mean, that's okay for short times, but working 24/7.
I've always done it, and I've never had a problem. I've always just used Spaces on Mac OS, and it's been fine. Nick, what's going on with you?
Steven, as soon as you said working 24/7, I think I found your problem.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe that is it, right? The monitors help for that, certainly.
Nick, what's going on with you?
So for me this week, just want to give a quick update to our listeners about my dog, since I'd mentioned he's got a cone. I had to put a cone on him because he had injured his paw. He's recovering. He's still relegated to the cone for most of the day. because he's still giving a little bit too much attention to that paw, but it's mostly healed at this point, and he's gotten used to the cone. He can now navigate the house without spooking at every strange noise. So he's getting used to it. It's getting better. I expect to be better in the next couple of days. As far as general life, as a tech savvy person, I, for the first time, ordered groceries online, which I thought was kind of interesting. I think I'll probably continue to do it. However, the first experience I had was kind of hit or miss. I mean, there were some things that were substituted and you get notified in the app, which is, kind of what you expect. There were other things that were substituted for far more expensive products with no notification, which was kind of unwelcome. And there were also a couple of items that just they shouldn't have been put in there. But in general, it was a good experience. It was a lot easier to choose all the items than I thought it would have been. You can't quite browse the way you normally do, and the search wasn't great, but it was definitely easier than I feared. And I think I'll try a couple of the services and see how it goes.
What service did you use?
Yeah, I'm surprised that you found a store that is actually still delivering and with the demand.
So
shut down, right?
So yeah, Price Chopper. Well, the first snafu is once I started adding products, they were adding them for a store in New York. Once I got that resolved, they had two options. One was for pickup and one was for delivery. The pickup wasn't available because they said it was too busy, and they were able to convert it to an Instacart. But you had to choose a window that was, I think we ordered on Saturday, and the window was Monday through Wednesday, and everything came on Tuesday. So really the only big complaint I had was one of the things that I got for meat was expired, which is less than fortunate.
Just cook it at high heat. You'll be fine.
But I expect most of that is because there's just such a low stock right now with stuff. They probably just grabbed it was on the shelf, and they probably got a bunch of new employees that aren't used to it. So I think it's kind of understandable, but still a bit disappointing. But in general, it was nice. I didn't have to leave the house, so can't really complain about that.
And as we've all learned, the expired meat can go to lions and tigers. So, so what's up with you, John?
I've been cooking a bunch. Obviously we're not leaving the house, and we're not ordering. We haven't actually ordered like takeout or anything since this whole thing started. So I've been doing a lot of cooking, which is awesome. But I'm also experiencing what the internet is affectionately calling the COVID-19. Which is, I'm feeling like maybe I should go out for like a run or a very vigorous walk or something, with all the cooking and the snacking. I'm feeling maybe like a little bit heavier than usual. I don't know. Maybe it's just being in the house so much, but yeah, cooking a bunch and really enjoying it. Cooking something I do enjoy doing. So being able to jump off the computer and cook dinner every night is super fun. So if you're at home and you're looking for something to do tonight, I recommend cooking yourself dinner. So it's enough about us for right now. Let's introduce our guests. First, we have Chris Murray, the president and CEO of a company I know very well, Think. And with him, we have Matt Westgate, the CEO and co-founder of Lullabot and the CEO of sister company Tugboat QA. Chris and Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us, John.
Yeah, thanks, John. Thanks, everybody.
Absolutely. So 2 of our past 3 shows have been discussing the Drupal Association fundraising campaign to overcome the funding shortfall caused by not having DrupalCon. The DA set a goal of and they're currently at 45% of that goal. Last week, we discussed a matching campaign from Dries and his wife. But yesterday, depending on when you're listening to this, the association announced a second matching campaign that is being supported by 29 Drupal agencies. With us today, we have two of those companies with us today. Wow, I botched that. So let's jump into the first question. First and foremost, there is a global health crisis going on. How are you guys coping with this, and how are your families, coping with this? And Chris, I'll let you go first.
All right. Looks like I'm going first. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. We're doing pretty well. It's been what's it been? Maybe 6 weeks? Are we on the 7th week maybe of no school and all that? And it's some days are good, some days are bad. A lot of boredom. The schooling is not super new to us. We did you guys know we did a sabbatical a couple years ago, and we did some homeschooling then. We're not very good at it, but it is what it is. And yeah, everybody's good, kind of settling into just the routine here, and it's okay. Yeah, we're kind of digging it. We did. My daughter Phoebe turned 12 yesterday, and I took the day off. We drove around and saw all her friends from a distance, and she got balloons, and she had a virtual sleepover last night with her friends. So, making the most of it.
Did you wipe those balloons with a Clorox wipe before she got to have them?
Maybe.
Matt, what about you? How are you guys doing?
I'm curious, what does a virtual sleepover look like?
It looks like a girl sitting on a sofa with a computer with her friends on video. And I don't know how long that lasted.
That's awesome. Doesn't Netflix have a thing these days where you can watch shows together with your friends and it keeps them in sync or something like that?
I think it's a third-party app, but yeah, I think it's called Netflix Party, and it allows you to sync viewing.
That would seem like a good teenager thing to do as well.
Man, I'm just catching up with Zooming of friends of mine that I haven't talked to in a while. So yeah, I don't know if I'm at the Netflix part of it yet.
No, things are good over here. Family's healthy. That's the most important thing. We're still trying to figure out how Instacart works and how to get the groceries that we want to get to. We haven't been leaving the house, and I've got a 5-year-old daughter who's immunocompromised, and so we try to go out of our way to make sure that we keep the germs at bay outside of the house. But luckily, I have 14 years of working from home already, so I had already built an office and have a place to go to work. But at any moment, we may get some visitors. But that's just part of the course these days. But yeah, we're trying to figure out homeschooling, and I feel fortunate in that we have a yard, a place to be able to go outside, and we've been cooking hot dogs and making s'mores. My wife is from Spain, and so s'mores aren't a thing there. And so when I mentioned them, she's like, "What on earth are you talking about?" And so I got to introduce her to what s'mores are. So for anybody listening, they're graham crackers, chocolate, and then you roast marshmallows over a fire, and then you put it all together and eat it, and it is sinfully delicious. But we've making the
very sticky, very sticky and very messy, but very delicious.
We're actually having hot dogs for dinner tonight, Matt. So
nice.
You guys should not to sidetrack too much, but you guys should try Colombian hot dogs. They're
like a hot dog
different.
with coffee grounds?
No, they're actually hot dogs with a little bit of ketchup, some pineapple sauce, potato sticks, and cheese. So shredded cheese. They're very good. Very different than what you have
in
here.
the show notes, okay? How about if we do that?
I will post that.
All right, great. So I'm glad to hear you guys are doing well with your families. I'm curious about the impact on your organizations. You know, Matt, you guys are already distributed. So I'm wondering how this has changed things for your company. And Chris, I can imagine, you know, you have an office in Providence, maybe one in Boston. I can't remember. But I'm wondering how that has impacted your day-to-day work as well.
Yeah. I mean, everything has changed in the world. Absolutely everything. So I don't think there's anyone or any business that's not impacted by this. You know, on a, you know, that's like, oh, well, you're distributed, so you were ready for this. And it's like, yeah, but I wasn't ready for all the anxiety that came along with it, you know? And so I think the struggle that we had initially is like, well, all this stuff is happening, and like, you know, on one hand, it's something like, what is it, only 30% or 40% of businesses or of jobs are jobs that you can work from home. You know, like a chiropractor or dentist, or, you know, like the list goes on and on. And so it's like, well, I'm super grateful that we're able to keep having our jobs because we have an internet connection and a computer. And like, there's also this thing of, there's like just some days where I don't want to work, you know, like I'm just not capable of working because of all of the stuff that's going on is super overwhelming. You know, if you're refreshing the website to look at the COVID stats and all of that. So trying to just sort of deal with the anxiety of taking care of the family, making sure your loved ones are okay, you know. So one of the things that we did is we just said to our team, like, take care of yourselves. And what we said is like, if you need to tap out, like, just tap out. Like, we're going to try to, you know, keep being there for our clients, keep trying to do the billable work that we need. But all those other things, the initiatives or other sort of side project things that we were working on, it's okay to let those go. And it's also okay to like just tap out when you need to tap out, because there's a lot going on in the world. You know, for us with kids, we're teachers now. And that's a whole new thing. You know, we started, it's like, okay, it's like, yeah, an hour a day I can do this, and 3 hours later, I've got to go to work. So that's tricky and challenging. But mostly, I think the thing that I'm trying to do on a personal level is take care of myself so I can show up and have space for others, you know, to give and extend grace and just try to keep doing that.
How about things over at Oomph, Chris?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of the same, right? And we're kind of a hybrid company. So we have an office. We're actually great timing, but we're in the middle of moving to a new office. It's being built out as we speak. But we're very used to remote work. So, you know, that part of it is not new to us. But at the same time, this is very different from normal remote work, right? So it's tough having kids in the background. It's tough, like you said, Matt, checking the news, and there's just so much noise. I know when this sort of first started heating up for me, it was the webinar invites. You know, they just keep coming and coming, and they all look good. And I got to be on that. I got to do this. I got to do that. And it's really hard to kind of cut through the clutter and just stay focused on the important stuff, you know, and taking care of yourself. One thing that, you know, we have a very flexible work environment with flex time and whatnot. And I think a lot of people have been really good at using that. So when they need a day, or they need to take the morning and just do the stuff they need to do at home, a lot of people are doing that. But I did find that, in a team environment, sometimes you can feel like you're letting your team down, right? When you take that morning off or cut out early. So one thing that we're actually trying tomorrow, we declared tomorrow as a wellness holiday. So it's just, it's not a typical holiday, but everybody's going to take, and hopefully that'll get those people that might feel guilty, letting their team go for a day without them. They don't have to worry about that anymore. So I think the team's excited about it. We'll see how that goes tomorrow. Maybe we'll do it again.
That's an interesting solution. So one of the things that I'm curious about, I think that this particular crisis is going to change how people view work and how companies operate for probably forever, but at least for a very long time. I'm curious about some of the positive changes that have come about and things that you think once things start to open back up, are there changes that you see keeping moving forward? And maybe fleshing out, as we move forward.
Yeah, Nick, that's a challenging question. It feels like, we're still, there's still likely another wave of coronavirus coming, in the fall.
Well, let me rephrase that maybe. Yeah, because I'm not pushing for people to be opening at this point, but more like, what are there any aspects of this change that were surprising that, like, hey, I never realized that could be a nice way to interact? So for example, one thing in personal lives that I'm hearing over and over again, and it's true in my life, is people are checking in with people. Like John said, he talked to more people on Zoom that he hasn't had a chance to catch up with in a long time recently. And I'm just curious if there are any kind of bright rays that shine through, like, this little thing tweaked a little bit, but it was a positive.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's good in crisis to find hope, and I think we all can get hope in a lot of different ways. Just seeing how, like in the world at large, like healthcare workers stepping up and, just everybody being creative about ways that they can help is inspiring. And I try to seek out those stories because they lift me up too, Our lawyer tested positive for coronavirus for Lullabot, and he's asymptomatic. And I called him yesterday, and he couldn't talk because he was about to donate plasma, and stuff like that is like, that's cool. I need more of those stories in my life, But in terms of like other places where like moments like that have happened, it's like I'm spending more time with my kids, and I'm more involved in their lives. And when all of this happened, my wife and I, she's like, oh man, I'm going to be with the kids for like, 8, 10, or more hours a day. And like, I'm not sure how I can sustain that. And I said, well, what do you need? Like, let's talk this out. And so for us, what we came up with is that I take the kids for 2 hours from 1 to 3 each day, more or less, and just spend time with them. And she's got a whole activity, chores and creative time and all of that. But like having patterns like that have been really awesome. Like my kid knows how to play Street Fighter now, and I'm really proud of that.
Very cool.
But yeah, and in terms of the Drupal community, when Chris and I got involved in this idea of the donation match for the businesses, it allowed us to connect with members of the community that we haven't talked to in quite a while, like to reach out to other CEOs and business leaders. And that was really rewarding. Like there was a bond that immediately formed there again that lifted us up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from a kind of work, daily working standpoint, there are a couple of things that I think we've done just because of this whole COVID situation that probably will stick with us. There are things that we wouldn't have done otherwise, and there's probably more than this actually. But I think this time of crisis, you just kind of have to try different things, and you have to give stuff a shot. And one of the things that we did like 6 or 7 weeks ago with our management team is we sort of looked at this as kind of a war room type of situation, like from the get-go, like what is happening here? What are we going to do? And how's this going to impact us? And we did with our management team, we set up standard daily stand-up. So every morning we check in for 20 minutes, half an hour. And we've never done that before, as a management team. And we did that daily for a couple of weeks. And now we've got it pared down to twice a week. But now I look back and I think, gosh, why weren't we doing this twice a week, even before this whole thing, right? So I think that's an example of a change that we've made, and that's going to be positive for us moving forward. We've also tried some different ways of working internally, just some experiments that we were sort of forced to do with how we might approach a particular problem. And I think we've learned a lot from these new ways of working together, and I think those will probably stick with us too. So, my goal from the outset was to try and figure out, as a company, how can we, not only just like survive this whole thing, but how can we be better because of it? And that we'll see how that shakes out. But there are definitely things that are happening that'll stick with us for the long term.
Thank you. Obviously, we're chatting today because we're talking specifically about the Triple Your Impact initiative that the Drupal Association has. What is the history of your organizations with Drupal and with the Drupal Association?
Wow. Yeah, no, that's great. So how much time do you have? No, it's, I got into Drupal early on. We won't need to refresh the whole story here, but about 2001 or so is when I stumbled upon drop.org, which was the website before Drupal existed. And that's a whole story in and of itself. But yeah, so this was before there was GitHub, before there was Git, before there was SVN. Everything was CVS repositories, and we had there wasn't a Drupal issue queue. It was Drupal. The Drupal community was maybe 100 or so people, and we were emailing patches back and forth to each other, and that's how we worked. It was a mailing list, and then Dries would integrate the patches or not, and so that happened for a while. And my contribution at the time was I wrote the first e-commerce package for Drupal, so the address book and the cart and the products and all of that kind of stuff. And long story short, in 2005, some of us started talking over IRC because Slack didn't exist, and we said, like, we should get together. We should totally, we should do this. And so I was working for Iowa State University at the time, and myself and John Van Dyke, we got funding from the university to go to Brussels to do a little Drupal conference. It was the first ever Drupal conference in 2005, and there were about 30 or 40 of us that met there. And in big letters, we had our IRC handles, name tags, and then in small letters, we had our real names underneath that. And we got to call up these people that we had been interacting with for the 3 or 4 years and say, hey, we've got a plane ticket for you. Come meet us here. and it was awesome, and we talked about CCK, the content construction kit. Before that, it was FlexiNode. It also it was called the M framework for a short period of time before that. But like that happened. And then Drupal kept growing. And as it grew, I realized that my day job at Iowa State University was more about interacting with the Drupal community than it was doing the stuff at Iowa State. And so I made a decision to start Lullabot and write a book. And the DA came about because we needed a place to, like, the Drupal conference was a thing that was happening and over again. And it was flowing, the money was flowing in and out of Dries' bank account. He was paying taxes on it. So like we had to get legit. And that was the way to do that. And so I always see the Drupal Association as like the megaphone to the community and the enabler of the community. Before the Drupal Association, Drupal really felt like by the developers for the developers. And I feel like the Drupal Association makes it so that everyone beyond the developers can also contribute to Drupal.
And how about you, Chris?
Yeah, so our history starts a little bit later than Matt's. It was I think 2009 probably. Was that about Drupal 5-ish? That's when we got involved with Drupal, and I had started the company a couple of years before that, working with a kind of a proprietary CMS, and it was like really, really hard to satisfy our clients. It just wasn't good. So we would work so hard, so hard, and it was just tough. So we sort of went out and started looking around for how we could leverage open source software. We did a bunch of work with WordPress, and we started getting involved in the Drupal community. The first DrupalCon that I went to was 2010 in San Francisco. So crazy that was 10 years ago now. And since then, I feel like our involvement in the Drupal community and the Drupal Association, obviously we came in a little bit later than Lullabot and other folks, but we've tried all along the way to be good community members, sponsoring events, getting people out to share information through talks and so forth. So yeah, that's pretty much our story up to this point.
Cool. So can we talk a little bit about the Drupal Association and, why is the Drupal Association important for agencies like yours?
Matt, how about Chris go first on this one?
Chris can go first.
I can go first on the other ones.
I'll go ahead and go first. I mean, and it's interesting over the past, I don't know, 3 weeks or so, or maybe 4 weeks. I think I've learned more about the Drupal Association and the impact that they have than I knew before. It's one of these things where it's very easy to kind of take for granted the fact that there are conferences organized and there's a code base that's organized, and it's easy to take it for granted. And I think to some extent, I feel a little bit guilty that maybe we have been taking that for granted for a while. I've learned a lot, and it's really exciting to, in a time like this, to get involved, learn more about an organization that really you're very dependent on, and try and figure out how you can be an even better citizen moving forward. So that's really our hope through this whole thing, and into the future, that we can do that.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with Chris. I couldn't have said it better. I mean, you don't wake up in the morning, turn the light on in your room and go, "Oh my God, thank you! Electricity is still here. This is amazing," you know. And I think every time that we load up Drupal.org in our browser, like we take for granted that it's the DA that's keeping that going and making that happen. So you know, I think somebody said it to me, you know, that best, that like there's things that we all want to make better, you know, like the DA knows that they've got concentration risk with DrupalCon being the primary source of revenue, and they want to fix that. They know that there's things that could be improved around infrastructure and stuff like that. But now isn't the time to be having those conversations. You know, we have a real issue of physical safety, psychological safety, and everybody needs to get like to the shore so that we're okay. And then we can go back into those conversations. You know, it's sort of like we know that things that could be better, but now isn't the time to be doing that. And so, you know, they've also been there for us, like to try experiments. We've had ideas to do things and to promote Drupal in different ways, and it's been a very good relationship. I feel like I kind of blubbered that last part, but edit it how you may.
It is what it is. So, Chris, I love the point that you make that you said that, and I don't think you should feel guilty about coming in the last few weeks and paying attention, but I think the key point there, it's not too late for someone to finally get involved, even if it takes a crisis like this to learn a little bit more about the association and get involved, whether it be financially or however they can do it. I'm curious about this specific campaign, which is triple matching, how this came across to you guys and how this thing transpired. How did your organization first learn about it, and what made you decide to get involved?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was really exciting for me, and I think it's a really good example of you know how the members coming together can do something really great. So, you know, we had been just talking internally about, well, what can we do? You know, how can we help with this situation? And we were pretty in a lot of conversations, a lot of ideas, and we were really before this whole thing came about, we were already down a path to what we thought was a good solution and a good contribution. And you know, this triple matching program, it came through email from Matt, and he said, "Hey, you know, I've got this idea. What do you think?" And it really went from that to, my gosh, this could be really impactful, to actually getting involved and trying to get others to contribute as well. And so I have to thank Matt for getting me involved. And it really, I mean, it's really been, I'd say, one of the most rewarding things that I've worked on in the last couple of weeks. Really good example of what you can do when you can get people together. Far more impactful than what we had planned to do just on our own.
Yeah, Chris and Oomph were one of the first people to step up and say, you know, this is crazy enough, it just might work. And so we kept leaning into it. You know, I mean, what it was is we saw Dries' message, you know, of like him and Vanessa, his wife, putting down $100,000. Say, okay, we're gonna, you know, can vote with your voice, you can vote with your money, and you can vote with your feet, you know, by like showing up and saying, here we are, this is important. And you know, a lot of us were just blown away by that message, as I can imagine all you were too. And so, you know, I know the business community of Drupal. It used to be I knew the development community, but they don't let me near the source code anymore. Unless it's in an Excel spreadsheet, I might be able to survive. But started reaching out to people and say, hey, what if we did a rally cry from the business community too, and said, like, it's not just Dries, it's a message that we can send, and we can amplify this even bigger, and really incentivize those individual contributions, which not everybody is capable of doing, and that's okay too. Like, it is a tough time, and if you're able to contribute, great, and if not, there are other ways to amplify the community. Even just sharing our message or supporting Drupal in another way. But it's like Chris is saying, like, just even to connect with Chris again, and the European Drupal businesses has been awesome. We started a Slack channel, and it's just cool to I mean, community in a time of crisis is a great connection to have. And I don't want this community to go anywhere, like that, the why behind it is like, I don't want to leave. Like, these are my peeps. This is my software. I want to stay, and I want to do everything I can to keep us together.
Going back up a couple of questions, right? To if you think there's anything that you'll keep from this situation going forward, do you guys think that you may keep this, like CEO meetup or CEO Slack channel going, for the future?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would be neat. I definitely, Chris reached out to a lot of people too, and those are new connections, new people to check in with. How's business? How's Drupal? Where else can we make an impact? What do our agencies need together? And I think now that those have been made, it's much easier to have those conversations.
So this campaign launched in the past 48 hours, I think. How has it been going? Do you have any results so far? Have you seen any positive movement in the financial goals as a result of it?
I may have immediately taken a nap after the launch. So, I don't know. I mean, we were pushing hard to make it all happen, but I think so. I mean, I saw the sponsorship. Like, last I looked, it was 27%, and then it jumped to 42%, and I don't know over what time period it had, but I hope people. I mean, the idea was to inspire, right? Inspire and incentivize, and send a message that this is important. Like, this is a moment where if we can come together in this way, great. And let's show that support. I don't know, Chris, have you seen the other side of it?
I haven't, but I mean, these kinds of things take time, right? So it's I don't think it's something where we would expect to all of a sudden, boom, we hit the goal the next day because of this. I think it's going to take a little more time, but I think it's a huge step in the right direction, and no doubt that it'll help.
So we've talked a little bit about how important the Drupal Association is, and I think all of us on this call are supporters, both individually and at the agency level. Why should individuals support the Drupal Association? What's the specific ask there?
So why should individuals as opposed to businesses, you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think it's the same as the business community. I think if you're in a position where you're able to do it, there are a lot of folks out there that are part of the community, have been leveraging these resources, leveraging the resources of the Drupal Association, using the code, building software, building businesses. And this is just a great opportunity to give back to an organization that's really helped you out. Whether you just started working with Drupal or you've been doing it for 10 or 15 years, it's an amazing opportunity. And I think now's the time if you're going to do it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the business side for so long. I mean, I did make an individual contribution, and the moment that I did make an individual contribution was because of the tripling the impact. You know, like I felt like I could get a real boost from that. But you know, I guess the reason that I contributed is simply to show my support. You know, to say, hey, I believe in what the DA is doing. And again, not everybody's in a financial position to do that, which I want to underpin. And there are other ways to contribute, but you know, a lot of us in the community make our livelihood because of Drupal, which is mind blowing. You know, like here we are working on an open source project that is also putting food on our table and taking care of our family, and like how utterly awesome is that? And you know, if we're in a position to give back financially, that is what the DA needs right now. That is the ask that they are making, and I think that's why some people are choosing to show up in this moment for that.
So Matt, you raise a great point there, where you know, obviously people are struggling, and but so many people, you know, benefit and have built careers on Drupal. You know, what I'm struggling with is the fact that if you break it down, right, the DA is trying to basically get to $100,000 for this campaign, right, which is going to be matched by Dries and his wife, as well as the 29 companies that you guys have gotten together. So essentially, you know, that brings it up to $300,000. You break $100,000 down, right? It's 10,000 people donating $10. Do you have any insight as to, you know, why this is a struggle? Like, I feel like, you know, $10 is, you know, is not a ton of money. And all people, you know, I know Jacob Rockowitz donated $4,000 from the web forms initiative, right? So I mean, there's you know, ebbs and flows, but you know, why is it a struggle to get 10,000 people to donate $10 to the Drupal Association when we all benefit so greatly from their software?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at that question. I did just refresh the internet, and it looks like as of this podcast recording that it's 64% raised. So that's good. You know, I mean, how many people contributed to Drupal in the last year? Dries had a blog post about that. I think it was like
2,000. Was it like 2,000?
No, I meant like overall contributions. Like I think the number was like 8,900 or something like that. Okay. It wasn't. I don't know. I don't think it was just core. I think it was like all of. I don't remember, but you know, maybe the thing is that 10,000 is a lot. 10,000 people contributing is a lot. You know, but and yet in the history of Drupal, there's been over 1 million people that have used it and downloaded it. But typically, open source software doesn't come with the ask for money, you know. And I feel like there's a sort of preconceived notion of like, hey, Drupal's free and I want to use it. And yet, you know, there are people that, again, like their livelihoods, their friendships, right? Like DrupalCon, not having DrupalCon be in person this year. You know, I sometimes complain about DrupalCon in the work that's required to like go there and do the booth and all of that, you know, and gosh, I tell you, not having it this year and thinking about not being able to spend time with all of some of my lifelong friends, like that made an impact. Like that really bummed me out and made me realize, again, going back to what Chris said, like I've taken this for granted. And so, yeah, I don't know, you know, it's a really good question. And I think that there is momentum happening and we need to keep at it.
Now, I noticed in the news today, I think John posted this in our Slack channel, that there's a virtual event that has been announced for July, a global 2020. Does anyone on this show have any insight into what that's all about? No, we're all shaking our heads. No.
I don't.
Nope.
Basically, DrupalCon's going virtual. So, I think I don't know. I think I agree with Matt's last statement. I'm a little bit saddened not to be getting together in a place and doing the DrupalCon thing, but I can understand the caution. I can understand the change of format. So I don't know. It could be the new way to do DrupalCon. Who knows?
I hope not. I mean, if it becomes a part of what we do, like if it becomes one channel, that's great. But I think not having the physical DrupalCon this year makes me realize that the role the physical DrupalCon plays in my life.
Yeah, I've been disappointed with the few camps that I would generally attend have gone virtual, and well, I understand the idea to do something, and virtual is kind of like the only option right now. It is something that I miss. That piece of being with the people is kind of what the camps are about to me, and having it virtual really doesn't, do anything at all. It's like watching the sessions later on YouTube kind of thing. So the sooner we can get back to something like that, the better. As we kind of head towards the end here, I'm curious if you guys have any information you'd like to share about things that are going on with your agencies, any events that you're doing, anything that you'd just like to share to let our listeners know about. Or is it just hunkering down and getting through this?
I guess like in sort of the spirit of advice, I'll share some of my struggles as a leader. And that is like, be careful with the big ideas in this moment. Like we are all just trying to, like the best advice is to take it day by day. And so I'm realizing in my interactions that the best thing I can do is be there to support the team. And there are things I want to think about, strategic priorities, vision, stuff like that. Obviously, that part of the job doesn't go away. But now isn't the time to pull everyone in your team together, or even groups of people together for essentially those large kind of visions. Not everyone can show up and have the energy level to go into those kind of conversations. Even myself, some days are better than others. Sometimes I'm surprised that my kids haven't come in yet on this podcast and like asked to play Street Fighter again, which I would probably be inclined to do. But just be kind to each other out there if you can, even on the internet. Just realize that we are like, there is I haven't had anxiety as an issue in my life, but I have it now, right? Like we all have a new level of normal that we're trying to deal with, and to be able to give and receive grace is probably the best thing that we can do right now, and try not to take things personally. So there's my advice for what it's worth.
Yeah, and I think
Chris,
Matt,
do you have anything to add?
I think Matt, you really hit it spot on. I mean, take it day by day, right? It's not a time to be moving super fast and making big plans and changing things up. It's really just getting by, helping people out, making sure that everyone's doing okay, and really focusing on the most important stuff. I said a little bit earlier, there's so much noise out there, and I think this applies to the DA fundraiser too. There's so much noise, and it's just a matter, I think, of just staying focused on the most important things and try real hard not to get distracted with things that at the end of the day really don't matter right now. Do them later if they will matter later, and focus on what's important. And I think a lot of that focus should be on yourself and taking care of yourself and doing the stuff you need to do to make sure you're healthy and doing the best you can do.
So any listeners out there, this is the time to revisit your commitment to the Drupal Association. Go to Drupal.org. Check out what the matching campaign's all about, the benefits of becoming a member. They have options to become an annual member, to just make a one-time donation. And as you can tell from the discussions we've had over the past few weeks, this is the time that the Drupal Association needs your help. It needs it financially. After we get through this time, there's other things you can do and do with the association and with your local communities. But right now, it's the time to take the $5, the $10, and go to Drupal.org and fill out that donation form.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Steve. So I'd like to thank our guests for joining us. And as always, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, Chris, how would they go about doing that?
Chris at oomphinc.com, oomphinc.com.
He's done that before. Matt, what about you?
You can reach me at matt@lullabot.com.
Fabulous. Steven?
You can reach me always at Steven Cross with a PH on Twitter.
Nick, what about you?
And you can reach me online, as always, at Nixman, Nicxvan. And how about you, John?
I'm John Picozzi, and you can find me on all the major social networks and Drupal.org at John Picozzi. And you can find out more about Oomph at oomphinc.com.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
You're welcome. It was fun.
And
I really appreciate it.
hopefully that helps move the needle a little bit. You never know.
It's funny. I did the math the other day because I'm like $100,000. I'm like, what does that break down to in like people? And I'm like, $10 a person is like 10,000. I'm like 20,000 people. I'm like, this is a global community. And I'm like, come on, we can't each donate $5 and like solve the problem. But
Yeah.
not everybody is in the same position that we are. So
Right.
We'll get there too. I think we'll hit that goal. I think we'll go past the goal. It takes time for people to, as we've been talking about, it's been a huge change for people. It takes time for people to start processing. And I think people are starting to look outside a little bit and see where they can help. And so I'm confident that we'll hit the goal, and that both the triple your impact goal and the general Drupal Association goal.
it'll be interesting now because your DrupalCon ticket can be the remainder of your DrupalCon ticket can be donated to the campaign, or you can get it as a refund. So it'll be interesting to see if people like take the refund and donate $100 or just donate.
What does that mean, the remainder of your?
So the virtual conference is I think $250. So I think DrupalCon tickets were like $700. So that $450, you can either get that back in a refund, or you can donate it to Drupal Cares, or there are a couple other options in ways you could donate it. So it'll be interesting to see if that boosts the amount of people supporting.
Yeah. Can you do send some of it as a donation?
No, but I guess you could just get the refund and then go and donate whatever you wanted to on the donation page if you wanted to go that route.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. There were like 4 or 5 options of what you could do with the funds. And one of them, I think the last one was like a full refund. Like I'm not going to go to the virtual event. Just send me my money back. So
Interesting.
Are the videos going to be available to the public after?
That seems to still be in the works. I think basically from what I read today, it was very much like logistics of like, here's the date. If you already have a ticket, here's what you can do if you already have a ticket to like get a refund or donate your money, and then like we'll tell you more in the coming weeks.
If all the videos are going to be public, like immediately following the conference, there's less incentive to go to the virtual conference. However, if the videos will be made public like 3 months after the conference, then maybe that's enough incentive for people to say, you know what, I want to show up and do this thing.
Be interesting to see too, like for your $250 or whatever it is, if you get like if there's some sort of special access or some sort of like, I don't know, group Zoom, or I don't know.
It would seem to me that in the way these conferences are being run today, that a fee that didn't include any kind of exclusive content would be strange.
Well, I mean, so Chris and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. It makes it more accessible, right? Because there are a couple of schools of thought. There are conferences out there that aren't changing their rates and charging full price and still going digital because they're like, our content is worth this much money, right? On the flip side, if you look at the DrupalCon model, right, for DrupalCon, like $700, $800 is a lot of money for some people to be able to go to a conference, plus travel, plus all these other expenses. Now at $250, you might say, $250, I can stay at my own house. I don't have to buy food. Like, that's worth it for me to go and, interact with all of these other people and go get this content firsthand and be able to ask questions and that sort of thing. So, I don't know. Maybe hopefully they see more people wanting to attend because it's more accessible now. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I might. Because I've never been to a DrupalCon. Part of it is because hotel fees and airfare and all that. But if I can attend virtually, then it's a lot easier for me to justify that.
One thing, so I did a virtual conference, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago before virtual conferences became the thing to do, right? And it was inexpensive. I don't remember exactly how much, but the value that I saw was that we had a whole bunch of people on our team at the conference at the same time, fully focused on the conference material. And we had a Slack channel going where we were actually having like live dialogue about what was being discussed. And it was really awesome, and very different from, hey, why don't you watch that video sometime, right? You get a lot less out of it, I think, if you're just on your own and, forming your own thoughts about the content. Multiple people experiencing it at the same time, it's kind of like the wellness holiday tomorrow. It's like everybody's doing it, right? So I think that there's it's going to be better than everyone taking a day off here and there. And I think the same thing applies to these online conferences. If you can, afford to take the time and get people focused and nurture that sort of back channel conversation, it's pretty cool. And I think it's worth paying for, even if material is available later.
Makes sense.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
All right. It's time.
Thanks, everybody.
Adios, guys.
Have fun with those hot dogs.
Hey, thanks, guys. That was great.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Talk to you guys later.